The Fisher estate was a stately old building high up on a canter horn, overlooking the Cicada Care Lot and the plains of Equestria beyond it. Archduke Fisher rarely used it. He took pride in his schooling luxury and frequently noted how his living quarters were a little different than the middle-class citizens in his province. The estate, built by Fisher's grandfather, was elegantly luxurious, thus elegantly ignored by Fisher unless he had to entertain important guests. But this night was the exception. Fisher stormed into the estate and flung his hammer to the ground in a rage. Now he noticed he had cracked the stone floor. Patches of his fur were blackened, armor was dinged and burned, and he was missing a hunk of hair from his tail. Soleil fought hard, but didn't even seem to notice. "How dare she?" he hissed. "After all I did, that pathetic absent nag!" "Sir?" Folk, Fisher's bodyguard, followed him inside. "What's happened?" "Princess Luna thinks I went too far," Fisher growled. "Too far? Too far in protecting the lives of the idiotic knights?" Folk said nothing. Fisher slammed a hoof in the wall. "I tried to tell her I caught Soleil, that I shut down the sun-cold presence in the city. They would have killed hundreds had I not intervened. She didn't want to hear any of it. Do you know what she said? That my actions were reprehensible because I almost let a bunch of worthless criminals die!" His voice suddenly grew to a roar. "As if a bunch of criminals could possibly matter as much as the elements of harmony!" "Sir, please calm yourself. You're the Archduke of Russia. You are justly revered for all your self-respect supporting the nation. This will blow over." "Read it." Fisher gave Falk a black look. "Captain Armour prominently petitioned Luna to remove me from my post as Minister of War. She told me that she is accepting the petition. Viceroy Nightlight will take over as the interim Minister of War until they find a permanent replacement. This could take months, and in the meantime, Nightlight!" Fisher trailed off into an articulate growl. "I've said this before, and I said this again. You know that there are a lot of people in the Ruby critics side of things who think that martial law and all that Fisher did would be a good thing. Then again, I think these guys also support military dictatorships. Hey, whatever it takes, right? Well, he's been responsible for keeping the Griffins out. Corona is another matter entirely. It's one thing to deal with the scruffy bird brains if they ever attacked. Luna herself could annihilate the armies. That tends to keep them wary of provoking us. But the tyrant's son, she has no such fear of our strength. Viceroy Night is not prepared to engage such a foe." Mr. Sugar said, "No pony is, except for me." Silence stretched across the room. Falk faintly answered, "Sir, you still have influence. This isn't the end of the world." "Is it?" Fisher's voice fell into a soft, hateful tempo. "It was I who worked 21-hour days designing the weapons and armor that our soldiers use. I who invested millions of my own bits in my arms and armor and research labs. Not to mention investing in every other technology that makes Equestria strong. Every military advance in the last 20 years has come indirectly or directly from me. I am the rock which Equestria rests. Without me, there would be nothing!" Archduke approached Falk. "If I wanted to, Falk, I could have an easy life of luxury. I'm smarter than Nightlight. I could have forced him out and made Viceroy years ago. I could have had lived a life of hedonistic dissipation. But I refused, because, unlike every other single pony in that court, I understand my duty. I know that the noble must be willing to sacrifice for the nation. Those noble fools who think themselves generous because they're willing to give a little of their money to charity, I give all of my money, my esteem, my health, my freedom, and even my life for this nation. Would any of them be willing to do that? Which ones? Will Viceroy Night break the law and risk incarnation if it had to be done? If not doing so would result in another nation obtaining a key military advantage for us? Would Viceroy Pusats give up one jangle if it would prevent the Chimera from killing us all? Would Justice Posey be willing to die for his citizenry? Would the esteemed Baron Marx be willing to give of his conscience to do something he felt was wrong in order to serve a greater good? No, they were not qualified to rule. They are most certainly incapable of defending Equestria." He said nothing for a few moments, looking out over the city. "The tyrant is coming, Volk," he said at last, "so you'll not hide forever. So he's already mustering our forces. If we do not have a noble at the helm who is prepared to do what must be done, who's willing to sacrifice everything he has in order to achieve our salvation, we are doomed. And what type of ponies are you willing to sacrifice? You say you are, but what about them? What about the people? Well, at least you're still free to protest, said Volk. I mean, you could petition. Free? Oh, didn't I tell you? You see, those abductions that Baron Max were looking into were actually real. Being caused by one of my ponies, Goliath. Professor advised me to retain counsel. Thus, in case our investigator turns up evidence that I was more involved. But, Volk's voice grew pensive. Goliath doesn't have the brains to abduct any pony on his own. He might hit them, sure, but he was working with a Shadowbolt, who, incidentally, was investigating my properties in the city before he went rogue, if you can believe that, and one unidentified pony that was trying to dig out of an airship docking bay. Fisher shook his head. My mining security chief, my Shadowbolt, my explosives too. And Luna said she wondered if I hadn't misdirected the guards because I was trying to throw them off. I'm probably going to be indicated, folk. Can you believe it? Celestia at our gates. They want to indict me as some kind of mastermind vigilante executioner because of a bunch of coincidences. Or possibly even a frame-up job. Folk turned and moved to the window with Fisher. I know you won't like me asking this, sir, but did you do it? Of course not! The horror on Fisher's face was genuine. I had no idea anything like that was going on. How could I? We had more important problem. He glared down the castle. I focused on the cult, on the mafia ponies, who I had very good reason to believe that they attacked the elements. I made the right decision. I do it again. He chuckled ruefully. Not that I get the taunts. I'll retain my seat, I'm sure, and the taunts will never stick. Being in it still counts for something. But I'll have no power to direct the nation's defenses. I'll just be watching as Night-Night, Poussons, and Wallflower put them into the ground. It's too bad you don't have the elements, sir. Luna would have to let you fight the war with that, and... Well, I had my best research scientists study if there's some way to transfer them, but so far, nothing. The Archduke shook his head. It's all for nothing. I give my soul to this nation, and this is the thanks I get. How you don't understand these days. Oh, side note, I found out Death Bow's going to have Discord versus Bill Cipher next season. My money, surprisingly, is on Bill. Discord has rules and limits. Bill doesn't. He trailed off again, and Volk turned to go. On his way out, Fisher raised his voice silently. By the way, Volk, how did your hunting go? Find any cultists? 4 or 5, sir. They're all in custody. Your own. I'm honest without you for today. We did at least take down the Canterlot remnants of the cult. 2 of my mares were injured badly enough to need a doctor. I got off with a few dents in the armor and some burned fur. It's funny how many ponies underestimate my skills as a fighter. As if all I did was push papers. Mr. shook again and looked over at Volk. You're limping, though. Did some pony hit you? Yeah, you could say that. But don't worry about me. I do this even if it kills me. I kind of fight. It's the kind of job I love, Volk grinned. If you don't mind me asking, sir, what do you love? Protecting the nation at all costs, growled Fisher. He was in no mood for rhetorical questions. Keeping his pony safe, making these sacrifices to support Equestria as a whole. Others might turn from it, but I won't. That is what it means to be a noble. He shook his head. Anyways, get some rest. If I only have a few days left as Minister of War, I intend to make the most of it. Tomorrow I am having you to meet with Captain Armour to schedule a time to train his officers in combat. Make sure they at least have half a clue. Yes, sir. On his way out, Volk suddenly turned. Mr. wasn't sure why he thought he saw a faint smile on Volk's face. When he looked again, it was gone. What is it? I wanted to say, I know right now it looks bad, sir. I know it looks like most of you have been forced out of your position. Now, Equestria has lost its Minister of War when it needs it most. I know it looks like a big blow for the nation that couldn't have gone better for Equestria's enemies, so you are considering itself. But, I promise you, I will stay by your side, do everything I can to see things turn around. Volk's eyes gleamed. Honest? Thank you, Volk. That means a lot to me. Fisher settled down on the ground. You may leave me for the night. Volk turned and left the estate, smiling to himself. Just his back right leg winced a bit, then resumed smiling. Damn, Max. Gotta do that again someday. I had more fun than I had in real time. He chuckled. Of course, if there is a next time, I'll bring a lot more friends. We'll get classy on call again. I wonder if they still think I'm stuck in that rubble. While hurrying down that path, his real superiors will want to hear what transpired. Things had gone much better than that last operation, that uplift mess, and they would just love hearing all about it. Fisher! R2 Fisher looked up from his simple meal of vegetables and grass. Greengrass, he growled. This is my private estate. You have no right to be here. Very true, agreed Greengrass. The brown-colored earth pony beamed as he walked up to the Fisher's table. But, thanks to your windows being surprisingly breakable, here I am. Fisher said nothing for a moment, concentrating on another bite of spinach. He was a gloat, me. Just because you decided to let my secretary die, rather than imperil a meaningless spy operation on the Oblake nobles, and I vowed to see you ruined one day, and now you've almost lost everything? Greengrass laughed. Do I really seem that petty? You're all nothing if not petty. Fisher bit into a carrot. What do you want, Greengrass? Greengrass said nothing for a moment, only turning and leaving the dining room to go into the living room, which overlooked the city. You know what I want, he said at last. Your infant's back, I'm sure. Fisher stood from his table and trotted over to Greengrass. If I threw him out the window, I might actually earn some points on Luna, he thought. Bribes are getting hard to come by, I suppose. Oh, it was never about the money. Greengrass grinned. The power to manipulate ponies like chess pieces? Certainly. But money? Not as much. I don't really care to hear your motives, snapped Fisher. Throwing you for the court was the one good move Luna's made in the past few years. And here I thought we were such good friends, said Greengrass. Remember when we worked together to deny Ponyville really fade? Good times. I did that to gain control of the elements so I could train them, protect them. Fisher raised a hoof and had to seriously struggle with the urge to slap Greengrass. I didn't have a thought of personal profit in my mind. I'm not like you, or Blue Blood, who just wanted to pass your own political bills and accrue power. I did what I did for the nation. He took a few deep breaths to look at Greengrass. The Earth Pony seemed nonplussed. He's strangely calm, Fisher thought. He looked so ragged when I saw him last. Either way, Greengrass said at last, we do share an understanding. This is why I've come to you. He was silent for a moment, looking out over the city. I want my power back, Bobby. I thought I could get it back by doing something heroic. But Luna just told me tonight she won't restore it even if I personally defeat Corona, T-Rex, and the Smooze all at once. If I'm to get it back, I need to go around her. I have no power to help you with that, and I wouldn't. I know full well that one of the supervisional nobles in Canada, Vice Crown Fudge Ripple of Montreal, only in a ponyfic, is under your hoof. He'll do whatever you say, including resign. Greengrass smiled. There's an old, obscure rule that applies to Canada and surrounding provinces. If a sub-provincial noble resigns without an heir, Canada gets their vote, and committee administrates. Thanks to your machination, Fudge ripples on some prestigious ministries. Unless Luna wants to violate her own rules, she'll have to let me take his place. His eyes gleamed, and my influence will be back. And why would I destroy a useful ally for your sake? Because I can destroy Baron Max. Fisher turned his head to Greengrass and said nothing. Max is happier when he was saving Ponies thing than he is doing paperwork. I have influence with him, and Luna has officially offered to replace his title of Baron with that of Knight Errant if he wants it. I could persuade him to want it. Failing that, he's as open as a book. I could wreck his career in a dozen ways. Greengrass chuckled. He told me how you fretted about Nupilar and having an insecure border. Max refuses to muster any soldiers. He insists that his other priorities, transportation and other such nonsense, is more important than a fully monitored national border. He lets Griffins wander his province without care that they might be spies. Fisher scowled. He knows nothing. Greengrass tried. I won't insult you by offering anything you need for your own gain. I'm aware of how selfless you are. If you help me, I'll get the committee appointments I need, and I'll help you get Max out. I'm sure you'll already have another pony installed somewhere in Newplar who could become the next Baron and will adopt a more secure border policy. He raised the hoof. Deal. Fisher paused. His horn glowed as he checked his house's magical sensors. They alert him to any kind of magical spell, such as, say, a recording spell active in that area. It would go off if they sense Pegasi flight, or magic outside, or earth ponies anywhere in the plateau of his house. But the sensors showed nothing. Unless somebody had climbed up the sheer cliff face for several hundred meters, was currently dangling below him. There's no pony else around to hear. Dear, he growled, why instigate a disturbance in Newpla once Max is out? I, the closest nobody, will have to deal with it. I could buy some time, maybe to show that I know what I'm doing about security. Betty, Max. It, said Greengrass, will be my pleasure. Greengrass had just finished descending the path and reached Canterlot when Max hopped up the mountain from right in front of him. Greengrass reared back and put his hooves to his mouth. Dear me, he said, could be you were listening in on that. Max stared at him. You knew I was following you. He said, you knew it ever since we left the city. Who, me? Greengrass shook his head. Alas, now my wicked corruption is exposed. I suppose now you'll run to the princess and report to her how I'm still the base stallion she knew me to be. What are you doing? Asked Max. I mean, you just got Fisher to agree to fraud. That was your plan. You could have cleared it with the guards, or me. Luna just assigned me a few points specifically for things like this. Where's the fun in that? Said Greengrass. Now remember, you need to act indignant to sell this. Raise your hoof, stomp around a little. Make sure to mention how you never thought that I, your friend, would pull such a dastardly Greengrass. The Duke stopped talking and looked at Max. Tell me what's going on. Tell me as your friend. Greengrass was silent for a few moments. Then he said, You know, before I lost my influence, I was having a wonderful chat with Fancy Pants. Smart pony, by the way. Always seems to know what's going on at court. He has a small suspicion of what I plan to do. He asked me why I was doing it. It was almost like he thought I was some utter bastard who would never sacrifice his own desires to help a friend. Imagine that, said Max. So I explained to him I never saw myself as courtier. I, as it happens, am a gardener. A gardener doesn't sacrifice his most precious flowers just because the ground gets a little rocky. A real gardener does what he has to in order to make sure his flowers flourish. Well, Fancy Pants, he didn't like that at all. He told me that gardeners had to admit when it couldn't be done. Sometimes environments are so fertile. He said a proper gardener knows when to give up and move on. What would a gardener do, he asked, if he had no water which nourished his fields? Greengrass nodded. Was it a hard question? I told him he would use his blood. The two were silent for almost a full minute. A soft breeze blew past them. Max realized that Greengrass seemed to have almost a tender expression. Greengrass, he asked, why did Nori leave you? The gardener smiled as if this was truly an important question. Remember, he said, we didn't know you and my father were coming. We were trapped in the Sun Cult's hideout. Thugs everywhere, and all of them ready to kill us. Nori, she's quite good at sneaking. She could get out without trouble. But you know me, I'm quite incapable of it. Had I gone with her, I would have likely gotten us both killed. So I sent her on without me. As she went? Not at first. As it happens, she refused for quite some time. The pony locked inside what had once been a junior magister officer's look. First glance, like a large blanket or a pile of whitest rags. She seemed to blend into the background of the room, as much as a piece of furniture as the tables and desks had been shoved to one side. A closer inspection tells you could see an off-white mane that hung limply over her face and neck, tail switching slightly back and forth, and a slight body that seemed too tired to be able to get up and move anymore. This was Nori, and this was the pony Greengrass had ruined his career to save. Luke smiled slightly as he looked into the window. He wrapped a roof onto the window. Nori glanced over a tired expression, stared for a moment, sprang to her feet. Sir! Greengrass gave a tearful wave. I hope you didn't think I forgot about you. Not for a moment. Nori ran up to the door, made uncharacteristically askew. Sir, how did you get here? God's coming, or... In a moment, Notary, said Greengrass. I just need a moment to open the door. Of course, sir, said Notary, with shocking amount of professionalism considering the circumstances. Greengrass smiled and reached into his mane. He had tucked a few tools with him before he entered the court for the final time. He had known, should his motion pass, that the Baroness of Oplik would immediately seize him and drag him to their hideout. He also knows he'd be too panicky to search for him. He quickly found the screwdriver he was looking for, and worked on the hinges. The door was taken out of the jam within 3 minutes. The Notary was leaping at him with a gigantic hug. Sir! Duke smiled and gave his servant a long hug. It's good to see you again, Notary. I'm sorry I got captured. It was entirely my fault. I underestimated the cult and you paid for it. But I'm here to stop payment. Greengrass held her for a moment longer. Did they hurt you? No. They wanted me to join them willingly, but the Baroness threatened to kill me if I didn't cooperate soon. She'll pay, said Greengrass, in a simple tone that brought no possibility of an argument. So enough about that. You're not injured, are you? Did they feed you? Did... Notary laughed. I'm fine now, sir. Thank you. The two slowly broke their embrace. Notary, after a moment of silence, said, The patrol this hallway every half hour or so. We have about 13 minutes before somebody will spot us. We seem to be located in an abandoned office building on the 3rd level of the city. Probably in the poorest section of that level, near one of the older schools. Greengrass had noted the rundown nature of the building, and heard the decent sound of foals frolicking during the recess break. If I remember the general architectural style of commercial buildings in this part of town correctly, there should be a black stairwell that, behind the end of this hallway, which leads to a large window near the trash disposal area. Notary nodded. What's our next move? You're to get out of here as fast as you can. Greengrass smiled. You're one of the stealthiest mayors I know. Given the general caliber of the cultists, even if they're watching that window, you should be able to slip past them. Of course, said Notary, nodding her head. That'll not be difficult. And yourself? I have a score to settle with the Baroness. Notary nodded. But, sir, if you defeat her, surely the cult will attack you in force. Greengrass shrugged. Probably. Sir, we can both use the back stairs. I'm not as stealthy as you. I would be caught, and you with me. That's not going to happen. Greengrass smiled easily. He had ceased worrying about his imminent doom. He got what he wanted. The rest was meaningless. I think we both know there's not an easy way out of here for me. Notary opened her mouth, then closed it. Greengrass knew she was considering any kind of possible way for him to escape, was realizing it would not be possible. As he finally spoke, she said, Then I'll stay with you. We'll fight it together. No, Notary. Greengrass sighed. I'm sorry, but it's time for you to find another master. I don't want another master. Notary shook her head. Sir, we've been together for years. I cannot leave you now. Notary. I don't care if the Sun Cult wants to kill you or Luna hates you. None of that matters. Notary pushed her hoof against Greengrass's. We are friends. Just as you would not leave me, I would not leave you for anything. I'd rather go down fighting with you than live knowing I had run away in your hour of need. Greengrass was silent for a moment. Notary. Suppose there were a gardener who cultivated a vast field, and among that field, the gardener had one flower he loved above all others. It was his most beautiful flower, and considered that to be his greatest achievement. But then came a day he had to move to an estate in the desert. He knew that, if he took his flower, it would shrivel in the hot sun, and would find little nourishment in the soil. It would, at best, wither and limp along in a stunted half-life. It's every moment a pale mockery of what would have been in a less hostile environment. Now, do you think any gardener worthy of the tile would take his flower there, or leave it behind his greenhouse, even if he never saw it again? He shook his tower. I lost my power in the court, Notary. I have no influence and nothing to offer you. And I made Luna break her own rules to do it. So she hates me more than ever. Will never permit me to amount to anything. Nothing you do will matter if you stay with me. I will not see my most precious flower languish due to her attachment to my person. Notary shut her eyes. Sir, I don't care if it makes sense or not. I will not betray you. Who said anything about betraying? Notary, when you leave me, I want you to fulfill my final request to you. Congrats with a Hellfire Soldier. I taught you everything you knew. Use what you're given to make your own garden. Go someplace where nobody's been able to create anything, where even Luna and the imbeciles at her court are helpless, and grow something beautiful. But Sir, I can't. You know I can't. Nobody even notices me. No. They don't, I know it'll be hard. You're a brilliant, industrious mayor, Notary, and I'm absolutely certain that if you try, you're going to be flowers to bloom in the most arid of soils. Greengrass said nothing for a moment. Go, Notary. Flourish. Stun the nation with the kind of beauty you can create, in places that no other pony could match you. Show the world how incredible a pony you are. Then I will know that, even if everything else about me is ruined, something of me lives on. He gave her one more hug. This is what I truly want from you, Notary. I don't want you to die just as you're coming into bloom. What I want is to be able to look down from wherever we ponies go to die, to see you create something gorgeous that even the dead cannot help but see it. Can you do this, Notary? Can you fulfill my final request? The secretary was quiet for a moment. A few tears fell to the ground. Maybe I can. But what about you? Me? Notary? I made my peace with what's going to happen. He smiled. You see, you may be the master of your chosen occupation, with several strings to pull the ponies in your stable. You must remember all the same that at the crux of every game is knowing when it's time to leave the table. And it's important to be artful in your exit. No turning back, you must accept the con is done. But now and then you might recall all those moments you had it all. You had the charm, you had the talent, and by the stars you had some fun. It was a ball, it was a blast. It's a shame it couldn't last. But every chapter has an end, you must agree. It was a joy, it was sublime, a splendid way to spend some time for a dirty, rotten colt like me. Greengrass laughed softly, looked around. You know, my father asked me yesterday if I regretted anything I'd done. And besides the investigation that landed you here, I have to say no. He tried. I didn't quite manage to rule the nation. But what would I have done if I tried? Grown old, fat, and complacent. Collected dozen old ponies, paintings like Poussons, or host frivolous balls like Prancy Pants. Sit in my ducal seat, bicker over meaningless nonsense. All the while wondering what I would have done if I tried. I hated that life. I'm glad I chose this one. And I'm glad I was able to share it. The Duke smiled and continued. You're not upset either, are you? No, sir. I wouldn't trade my way for anything. Greengrass continued. When you look back on all your conquests and deceptions, you see 1,000 flawless pearls set in a strand, laid out from Bourbon to Rome, each one as perfect as a poem, an opus to be proud of, though it's written in the sand. It was a ball, it was a thrill. You had the grace, you had the skill to know exactly what to say or what to do. You wouldn't trade a single day or have it any other way for a sneaky little mare like you. Notary smiled through her tears and began to sing. It was almost a religion, the need to take a pigeon, or to play your part with elegance and zest. And when it's time to cut the act, and your duffel bag is packed, take comfort in the fact that you at last surpassed the best. It was a ball, a blast, it was a ball, it was a gas, I loved it all. And if we beat Luna at last, then it was a plus. Oh, Notary, you have the verve, you have the guts, you've got the nerve, you got the guts. And though we're dirty, rotten crooks, dirty, rotten snooks, dirty, rotten crooks, dirty, rotten, ooh! They embraced one last time and sang together. It was a trip, it was a blast, and it's a shame it couldn't last, 'cause it's too prodigious to discuss. Though we lost the game, I'm glad we've had it play the same. Dirty, rotten folks! They then paused and finished with, like us! Trixie's so glad we opted for the additional space inside the studio. For when you start dancing like that. Yep. The two were silent for a moment more. Then Greengrass said, Go, Nori. Plant your garden. Grow it. Tend to it. Weed it. Pollinate. Sir, did anything you find sacred, please don't go further with that metaphor. Greengrass laughed at that. Make something so beautiful, only you could have made it. Don't worry too much about me. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Nori bowed, lingered for one moment, then ran down the corridor, vanishing into the shadows before she was halfway through the hall. Greengrass watched her go, not bothering to stop the tears from falling from her eyes. Only when he distantly heard a door shut at the end of the hallway did he turn. All right, he said. That baroness cost me more than I ever wanted to pay. Now, it's time for a little payback. Greengrass and Clouds, you could have made all of this its own little bitty chapter, right? You could have made its own little side story. You know this, right? I mean, this is good and all, but you could have.